Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show is to provide you information the bought-off lamestream fake media will not touch. You can join us every Sunday for the radio show. It's free. Go to davejanda.com. Go to the listen button in the upper right-hand corner. It streams Wham Talk 1600's radio stream, actually 24/7. So you can listen to Wham Talk 1600 24/7 without trouble. In addition, we have this platform for our YouTube presentations, and we also have davejanda.com. We upload a significant amount of free content on davejanda.com. We also have our subscription service with extra shows, our WTF show, our Insider Insight show, our Department of Advanced Research show, access to all the archives, access to our podcasts of the radio show, all the way back to its inception in October of 2010. All available 30 cents a day, $9 a month. Sign up for a month. If you don't like it, you can get rid of it. Not sure why. The information you get, you won't see in the fake media. What I'd like to focus on today is some of the efforts that are occurring behind the curtain that are starting to come forward. Many people are saying, I don't see anything happening. This is very frustrating. Well, I understand that. But for those folks that are saying nothing's happening and they don't see anything, it's my contention they're not looking quite hard enough. Now, in some cases, it's not their fault. If folks continue to watch the lamestream media, the CNNs of the world, the MSNBCs, the ABC, CBS, PBSs, Fox for that matter, you're going to miss what the freedom movement has been achieving. And in fact, over this past Memorial Day holiday, a significant event happened. It's called Rolling Thunder. This is the 31st year of Rolling Thunder. This is where vets from around the country come to Washington on their motorcycles. I believe this year there were close to 1.5 million attendees at that event on Memorial Day. Now, there was concern that this was going to be the last Rolling Thunder event because of financial resource issues. The president on that morning of Memorial Day tweeted out that he was going to try to arrange so that this would not be the last event for Rolling Thunder. There were a number of keynote speakers, freedom fighters of the highest order, incredibly courageous, who spoke about the POW MIA issue. One of the keynote speakers was someone who I consider a very dear friend, General Tom McInerney. General McInerney is an incredibly courageous individual. And before I present what he spoke to the masses, to the crowd, to the Rolling Thunder event, I want to give you a little background on General McInerney so you have a little foundation as far as his credibility when you hear what he had to say about the POW MIA issue. General McInerney for 35 years served as a pilot, commander, and strategic planner in the United States Air Force. Tom retired from military service as Assistant Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force and Director of the Defense Performance Review, reporting to the Secretary of Defense. He led the Pentagon's reinventing government effort, visiting more than 100 leading-edge commercial companies to assimilate their ideas about business reengineering. General McInerney graduated from the United States Military Academy and earned a master's degree in international relations from George Washington University. General McInerney also attended the Armed Forces Staff College and the National War College. He has been a regular on our Operation Freedom platform for years. And in fact, I encourage you to go back to our special edition we put out this past Friday on the surveillance, illegal surveillance issues as it relates, and also the fake Russian hack narrative. We had a great interview we did on the subscriptions platform that we moved to the public platform with incredible freedom fighters. Again, an example of, there's a lot happening. We had an interview with Bill Binney and Kirk Wiebe, and they outlined, number one, that it wasn't a Russian hack. The whole Mueller report was predicated on a lie. It was actually a download internally within the DNC, not a hack. And that downloaded material was then transferred to Julian Assange, who published the information on the WikiLeaks platform. There is no hack. Where's the collusion? What's so frustrating is this entire 3-year goat rodeo of the Russian collusion narrative was all predicated upon a Russian hack of DNC files, a server that was never turned over to the FBI or the Inspector General of the Department of Justice or Robert Mueller. But Bill Binney, Kirk Wiebe, and their team, forensic team, IT team, determined in fact that it was a download internally and then transferred to Assange. The second point brought up in that interview was the fact that parallel platforms exist in our government on multiple levels. And these parallel platforms can be used for good, but also evil. So that criminals within the government can illegally surveil, without leaving footprints, millions of American citizens, which in fact is what many of us believe occurred during the Obama administration. And finally, Kirk and Bill outlined the fact that there was these parallel platforms not only exist, but the person, and they also admit that they have been involved in them as well, but the person who has been out front to date on this, Dennis Montgomery, has been demonized because of his efforts on behalf of the freedom movement to educate folks that this illegal surveillance was occurring. Bill and Kirk are going to take tremendous heat for coming forward. And in the speech, part of the speech that I'm going to read to you that General McInerney gave at the Rolling Thunder event, he's also going to take grief and heat by the deep state for outing the truth. So for those that say nothing's happening, those that say nothing's happening are unaware of the work of Bill Binney, Kirk Wiebe, General McInerney, and also Admiral Ace Lyons, who recently passed away, who also presented some information in this regard, several years ago, in fact. Individuals such as General Paul Vallely, individuals such as Sidney Powell, outing what's really occurring in the legal system. Helen Chapman, another outstanding attorney who's done the same. Individuals such as Colonel Craig Roberts, who's called into question a number of government programs. Individuals such as Dr. Mark Skidmore and Catherine Austin Fitts, who have outlined the missing $21 trillion just over the past, in a 17-year time period in our government. Individuals such as Bill Holter and Ed Steer and Bill Murphy, Rob Kirby, who have come forward and outlined how the globalist-controlled Federal Reserve and globalist central banks around the world have essentially looted every person of the world's hard-earned efforts. These are all freedom fighters, and they all take immense heat from the deep state. So when someone tells you nothing's happening, just tune in every Sunday from 2 to 5. You'll hear great guests who will tell you what's happening. Guaranteed. General McInerney, I believe, put his life on the line by doing what he did in that presentation Sunday on Memorial Day. His speech was entitled, "We Never Leave Anyone Behind?" Yeah, question mark. Here's what General McInerney said. "Now, I did not come here on the last Rolling Thunder just to praise the extraordinary job you have done for the MIA families, or those that have been confirmed killed in action, and the remains returned home to their final resting place, many of whom are buried just across the river behind us in Arlington National Cemetery. No, I came to give my humble opinion on did we leave anyone behind. Remember General McInerney's credentials. I am sad to say that after some extensive research, I have concluded, like Admiral Ace Lyons, who is no longer with us, God rest his soul, who said in 2017 that, in fact, we did leave people behind in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. The World War II numbers, were approximately 23,500 men who were in German POW camps liberated by the Russians and then were sent to Russian slave labor camps. President Truman's administration was surrounded by Soviet espionage agents who had the ear of both Roosevelt and Truman. And in fact, Harry Hopkins, who was the Soviets' most valued agent during World War II, played a significant role. The administration was worried about offending Stalin and desperately wanted good relations with the Russians, so they kept it a secret from the American people, who would have been outraged. The Deep State, folks, existed back then. I will repeat this sentence again several more times. The Korean War saw a similar shameful act by the Eisenhower administration, who left behind approximately 8,000 to 10,000 men, according to General James Van Fleet, the 8th Army commander. They ended up in slave labor camps in North Korea, China, and Russia under brutal conditions. This actually came out later, much later, in declassified documents. Did the bought-off lamestream fake media folks, by the way, report on that? No. Again, the bought-off lamestream fake media, in my opinion, and many people's opinion, is a tentacle of the deep state, which is why you get great propaganda from them, but you don't get the facts. General McInerney goes on. Again, the deep state existed, and the diplomats sacrificed our men for their geopolitical views. This was all kept secret, away from the American public. Now the Vietnam War is much closer to our memory, as this is why our Rolling Thunder founders formed this important patriotic group in 1987 after a series of commissions produced very little over the years. Since Operation Homecoming was completed from February 1973 to April 4th, 1973, the North Vietnamese returned 591 POWs, 510 from North Vietnam, 69 from South Vietnam, 9 from Laos, and 3 from China. But this was only 12% of the remaining 5,000 total MIAs in North Vietnam and Laos, evenly divided between 2,500 from each location. From 1973 until 1993, there were numerous commissions and study groups resulting from hundreds of sightings of U.S. POWs in North Vietnam, South Vietnam, and Laos. In addition, there were a number of rescue attempts planned, especially under President Reagan, who was genuinely interested in trying to liberate as many as we could located from the sightings reports. Unfortunately, the deep state would leak the information to the press, and the raids would then be canceled. This combined the original failure of the Nixon administration to carry out a secret letter from President Nixon to Ho Chi Minh saying the U.S. would fund $5 billion for reconstruction for the return of all of the POWs, which was then reneged upon by the United States after President Nixon's resignation, and the Democratic Congress is cutting off all funding to the South Vietnamese forces, which resulted in the capitulation of the South Vietnam forces after an invasion by the North. I, General Tom McInerney, was the air attaché in London the day Da Nang fell. At the time, I was welcoming the House Majority Leader Tip O'Neill to London on behalf of Ambassador Elliot Richardson. All Tip O'Neill said when I showed him the headlines in the London Times of Da Nang falling was, quote, "We cannot be the world's policeman," end quote. Without a doubt, the Democratic Party leadership, who was in control of both houses at the time, was in a cut-and-run mindset, which further complicated the MIA issue being resolved by President Ford, who was then followed by President Carter, who paid lip service to any attempts to resolve the issue with the assistance of the deep state, which was, continued to be, alive and well. General McInerney also outlined the fact that leaving people behind didn't end there. It happened most recently in Benghazi, when 4 Americans were left behind. If you listen to the whistleblower information we presented on this platform with Charles Woods, whose son Ty Woods died in Benghazi, one of the 4 victims, and a very courageous patriot, Travis, who came forward, who was working in the field of operations that night when Benghazi occurred. Stand-down orders were given, which allowed those 4 Americans to die. General McInerney concludes with the following. The deep state continues to survive, just as it did for so many years to suppress the status of the 5,000 MIAs from the Vietnam War. In fact, the same people involved in Benghazi were also involved trying to bring down the Trump campaign and his newly formed administration using the same patterns of behavior, i.e., getting warrants to collect all the communications data of Rick Gates and George Papadopoulos, which means if you get them, you get the whole team's communications. This was done to our team, the Citizens Commission on Benghazi, as we investigated what really occurred in Benghazi. The whole CCB team was monitored in an effort to try and protect the Obama election campaign. And frankly, it almost worked. I know because I was part of the Citizens Commission on Benghazi and noticed strange things happening to my emails. This is General McInerney. Now the Russian collusion hoax against the Trump administration to do a soft coup d'etat and impeach President Trump is exploding in the Obama administration's face as we speak. But it is important to point out that we watched it in operation throughout many years, that we left behind our MIAs by both Democratic and Republican administrations. As a matter of fact, every president since Roosevelt, through Obama, has used to thwart freedom-based efforts put forward by patriots. That was then. This is now. I truly believe the patriots have made more than inroads. Individuals, courageous patriots, such as General McInerney, Bill Benny, Kurt Wiebe, just to name a few, have stepped forward to out the deep state. And with the light of truth, I believe, comes restitution of every American's freedoms and liberties. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail.